So here's some work with functions. We've got these two functions, f of x and g of x. Find the domain of each one. So the domain means what are the possible values of x that you're allowed to substitute. So there's really just two rules. One, you can't divide by 0. So for this one, you'd say, well, what would make the bottom equal to 0? If x minus 4 equals 0, that would be bad news, so you can't have that. So in other words, if you add 4 to both sides, x cannot equal 4. Now, the way to actually say what the domain is, you could say that it's all real numbers except for 4. One way to write that is, you could write out the words all real numbers, or you could make this fancy capital R that has 2 lines on the straight part. And then you say subtract out the number 4, and then you put it in braces because it's set notation. More commonly, what we do in intermediate algebra through calculus is you write it in interval notation. So the domain would be go from negative infinity up to 4, put a round parentheses so you don't include 4, then go from 4 to positive infinity, and then say union between them. So because this is a round parenthesis here and here, that means that the 4 is not included on either side. All of these positives up to positive infinity, all these negatives in below 4, they're all included except the 4 is not, so that's another way to write it. So then this one demonstrates the second rule for domain. So one is the denominator cannot equal 0. The other is no square root of a negative. So that means that x minus 4 has to be bigger than or equal to 0. Equal to 0 is allowed because the square root of 0 is 0. Watch, I can prove it. The square root of 0 is 0. But if you had a negative, the square root of -1, it's not a real answer. Okay, so we need numbers bigger than or equal to 0. Then just move the 4 to the other side, so x is bigger than or equal to 4. And we should write it in interval notation, so it goes from 4 to the right. So bigger than means to the right, up to positive infinity. And then this one has a square bracket because this has an equals in it, which is what this means. The square bracket means it could equal 4. The round parenthesis means that it doesn't equal it. There we go. There's the domain.